Imagine being a political exile on a barren, windswept island in the middle of the Aegean Sea, between modern-day Greece and Turkey during the 1st century AD. You are around 55 years old and torn away from your ministry, your friends, and your life's work. The Romans have dumped you on this rocky prison called Patmos because you would not stop preaching about Jesus Christ. And then an angel of the Lord appears, followed by Jesus himself, speaking to you directly. Revelation 1 verses 1 through 3. The revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave unto him, to show unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass. He sent and signified it by his angel unto his servant John, who bare record of the word of God, and of the testimony of Jesus Christ, and of all things he saw. Blessed is he that readeth, and they that hear the words of this prophecy, and keep those things which are written therein, for the time is at hand. Who was this John? This was not just any John. This was the Apostle John, the one referred to 5 times in his gospel as the disciple whom Jesus loved. The same John who leaned against Jesus at the Last Supper, stood at the foot of the cross when others fled, received Jesus' mother Mary into his care, ran to the empty tomb on resurrection morning. By the time he is writing Revelation, John has likely already written his gospel in 3 letters to the church. He is one of the last living eyewitnesses to Jesus' earthly ministry. Everyone else is gone. James was already martyred by Herod Agrippa around 44 AD. Peter has likely died under Nero's persecution. Only John alone remains. And what shows Jesus' incredible love and trust in John? Of all the disciples he could have chosen to receive this final climactic revelation, the last book of the Bible, he chose John. And here is what is remarkable. When Jesus appears to John on Patmos, John recognizes him immediately. This is not a stranger nor an angel. This is the same Jesus whom he walked with, ate with, and served in the ministry for 3 years. The voice John hears is unmistakably familiar, even in his glorified form. Was Patmos an island prison? Or divine positioning? Patmos was not a luxury vacation spot. This small island, only 10 miles long and 6 miles wide, was Rome's version of Alcatraz, and it was surrounded by volcanic rock, sparse vegetation, crashing waves, and political prisoners. John tells us plainly why he is there, because of the word of God and the testimony of Jesus Christ. And picture this. Emperor Nero has unleashed brutal persecution on Christians. It's around 65 AD. John, now in his 50s, refuses to stop preaching, so they ship him off to this desolate rock to silence him. But here's the beautiful truth. What Satan and Rome meant for punishment, God meant for purpose. John was not just being punished, he was being protected in position, away from the chaos of persecution, isolated from all distractions, on a quiet island where he could focus completely on receiving the greatest revelation ever given to the church. God orchestrated John's exile perfectly, using Rome's own punishment system, to create the ideal environment for his final biblical revelation. As Joseph said to his brothers, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good." Genesis 50 verse 20. Here's what is remarkable about these opening verses. This is not John's revelation. Look at the chain of communication. God the Father, to Jesus Christ, to the angel, to John, to the church. John is crystal clear. I'm just the messenger. This came from the throne room of heaven. And notice something else. Verse 1 says, this shows what must soon take place. And verse 3 says, the time is near. John is writing with urgency. In a world where most people couldn't read, someone would read aloud to the gathered church. Before we dive into dragons and beasts and cosmic battles, John gives us the first promise of revelation. Blessed is the one who reads aloud the words of this prophecy. These are not distant prophecies for some far-off generation. This is immediate. The first promise, John promises a blessing. Not just for understanding every symbol, not for having all the prophecies figured out, but simply for reading, hearing, and taking it to heart. Before we go any further, let's establish 3 core foundational truths. First, this book is called Revelation, not confusion. The very first word in Greek is apocalypsis, meaning to uncover, to unveil, to reveal. God didn't give us this book to confuse us or scare us. He gave it to reveal Jesus Christ to us. Second, we are promised a blessing. Verse 3 gives us the first of 7 blessings in this book. You don't get blessed by being confused or terrified. God is not the author of confusion. You get blessed because God is showing you something plainly wonderful. The triumph of his Son Third, this entire book is about Jesus. Look at verse 1 again. The revelation of Jesus Christ, from beginning to end, whether we're reading about lampstands, or seals, or trumpets, or the New Jerusalem, it is all revealing different aspects of who Jesus is, and what he has accomplished. And here's the scope of this book. This revelation spans from the beginning of time to the end of time. From the war in heaven, to the battle of Armageddon, to the new heavens and new earth. It's a powerful vision showing events on earth and events in heaven, plus informational chapters that give us the backstory we need to understand God's eternal plan. Revelation shows us Jesus in his fullness. From the Lamb slain, from the foundation of the world, to the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. But it also reveals Satan's complete story. From being cast out of heaven to earth, appearing as the serpent in the garden, and finally as the dragon in the last battle. This is the ultimate tale of good versus evil, with Jesus Christ's central role in all of history and eternity. John did not write Revelation as a puzzle to solve, or a timeline to decode. He wrote it as the revelation of Jesus Christ, an unveiling of who Jesus really is and what he's accomplished. When John was exiled, it looked like the enemies of the gospel were winning. Every other apostle had been martyred. Christians were being fed to lions, crucified, and burned alive. The early church was scattered and suffering. The last living eyewitness to Jesus was now imprisoned on a desolate rock in the sea. But from his prison island, John received a vision that changed everything. Jesus Christ is not a defeated rabbi from Nazareth. He is the risen, glorified, conquering King of Kings. And the blessing comes from seeing him as he truly is. Jesus entrusted his beloved disciple with the honor of penning Scripture's final words. In our next episode, we'll dive into John's incredible vision of the glorified Christ in the continuation of chapter 1. But for now, remember this: the same Jesus who walked on water, who died on the cross, who rose from the dead, that Jesus chose to reveal himself to a prisoner on a forgotten island, and he is still revealing himself today. Blessed is the one who reads aloud the words of this prophecy, and blessed are those who hear it and take to heart what is written in it, because the time is near.